Okay, get this. Without our circulatory system, it could take 60, that's 60, years for the nutrients from your food to get from your stomach to your toes. I mean, can you even imagine? It would be completely impossible to live. That really puts into perspective just how mind-blowingly efficient our internal transport system is.
So that's the big question, isn't it? As life went from being microscopic to, well, our size, it had to get really, really creative. This is the story of nature's genius engineering, figuring out how to beat the problem of getting bigger.
And it all boils down to one simple concept from physics. You see, when you're just a single cell, life is easy. Getting supplies in and taking the trash out is no big deal. But once you start building a body out of millions or even billions of cells, that simple method just stops working.
That simple method is called diffusion. It's kind of like the universe's default setting for how things spread out. You know, like when a smell drifts across a room, it doesn't take any energy, it just happens. And for a tiny single cell, that's perfectly fine. But over any real distance, diffusion is painfully, almost uselessly slow.
Let's look at an amoeba. It's basically just a tiny little blob of protoplasm. So once oxygen or nutrients diffuse inside, they get swirled around by all the random jiggling of molecules. That's called Brownian movement. And also by the cell's own internal currents. For something that small, it works like a charm.
Okay, but what happens when you decide to become multicellular? Now you've got cells on the inside that are miles away, relatively speaking, from the outside world. They can't get food or oxygen by diffusion anymore, so nature had to start experimenting. And its first few solutions were clever, for sure, but they had the limits.
So what was the first big idea? Well, sponges looked around and basically said, hey, why should we build a whole delivery system when we're already living in one? They just decided to use the ocean itself to do all the work. Talk about outsourcing.
But don't think for a second that sponges are lazy. Oh no, they are active pump masters. They have these specialized cells with tiny little whips called flagella, and they beat constantly to create a current. This pulls fresh seawater full of food and oxygen in through little pores and pushes all the waste out through a big hole on top. It's a simple living water pump.
All right, so the next evolutionary step was to bring that delivery system inside the body. Animals like hydra and jellyfish came up with a pretty neat design, a simple internal pouch. You can think of it as a single cavity that works as both the stomach and the circulatory system. And this pouch has a name, the gastrovascular cavity. Food goes in, gets digested right there, and then that nutrient-rich fluid gets swished around to reach all the cells lining the inside. It's a great two-for-one deal, digestion and distribution, all in the same place.
But a simple pouch has its limitations. As animals got thicker and more complex, they needed a way to deliver supplies to cells that weren't right next to that central cavity. It was time to start building some internal highways.
Flatworms took that pouch idea and gave it a major upgrade. They developed a digestive system that was highly branched. It looked like the roots of a tree spreading out. These branches snaked their way through the entire body, making sure no cell was ever too far from a supply line. It's kind of like building a road to every single house in a city. Now, roundworms took a slightly different approach. They developed a fluid-filled body cavity that sits between their gut and their outer body wall. And as the worm wiggles and moves around, this fluid just sloshes about, bathing all the organs, delivering nutrients, and picking up waste. Pretty simple, but it works.
So all of these solutions were pretty clever, right? But they were all about to become yesterday's news. Because what came next was one of the single greatest innovations in the history of life. This is the moment when everything changed, leading directly to the kind of system that you and I have.
It all happened in a group of animals called the annelids. Think of the humble earthworm. In them, two brand new, revolutionary technologies came together for the very first time. And trust me, this was an absolute game changer. And here they are. First, a specialized fluid designed for one job and one job only: transport. We call it blood. And second, a dedicated pump, basically a throbbing blood vessel that could actively push that fluid around the body with some real force. This was it. This was the birth of the first true circulatory system. Now, from this revolutionary new idea, evolution went down two different paths. It created two major blueprints for how to run a circulatory system. And understanding the difference between these two is super important, especially for your exams, so listen up. First up, you've got the open circulatory system. This is what you find in insects, crabs, and spiders. They have a heart that pumps blood, but it just pumps it out into the main body cavity. The blood just kind of floods everything. directly bathing the tissues and organs. Think of it like a sprinkler system that just soaks the whole garden at once.
The other path led to the closed circulatory system, and this is the one we have. In this system, the blood is always contained inside a network of vessels, arteries, veins, and capillaries. It never just floods the body. This is more like a high-tech irrigation system, with pipes delivering water directly and efficiently right where it's needed.
So let's compare them side by side. Open systems, they're low pressure and slow. The blood just sort of meanders around. But closed systems, they're high pressure and fast. Blood is actively pushed where it needs to go and quickly. This high efficiency is what makes it possible for animals to become large, active, and even intelligent, like an octopus, or, us.
Whew! Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. So let's just take a quick pause and look back at this whole incredible evolutionary journey, from the simplest possible solution to the most advanced.
You can really see the story unfold here, right? Life starts with simple diffusion. Then sponges learn to use water currents. Cladarians bring the system inside with a pouch. Then, bam! The huge leap in annelids with the first closed system. And from that point on, evolution forked. Arthropods went one way with the open system, while our ancestors went the other, perfecting the closed system.
All right, so let's lock in the key points for your exams. If they ask why transport systems evolved, the answer is to beat the slowness of diffusion in big bodies. What's an open system? Think of a fluid bath. What's a closed system? Think of plumbing with pipes. And why are closed systems better for active animals? Simple. They're faster, more powerful, and way more efficient.
And really, that's the core idea of this whole story. As life got more complex, nature had to invent more advanced and sophisticated systems to keep up. The entire history of the circulatory system is a perfect example of evolution being driven by necessity, coming up with brilliant solutions to brand new problems. It's an amazing story of innovation.